Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where it's not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows just don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just sway your mind.
Here, we take that second chance for you to let you know our opinion on if a show is worth more than just one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this week will be How I Met Your Father.
So this is a unique one, because not only is it a show that obviously has 2 episodes.
Is it unique?
But it's also a second show of the same formula.
So, not unique at all.
I mean, just unique in like that we watched the first 2 episodes of things, and this is the second iteration of a similar storytelling thing.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
I mean, I guess it's not unique in that either. Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I guess Power Rangers have different plots. This doesn't have a different plot. This show is literally How I Met Your Mother, but gender swapped.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it has changes in the overarching
The
plot,
theme
but
song
the
theme song is even the same, except now it's a woman singing instead of a man.
Also, what is How I Met Your Mother? Like, you've mentioned that several times when we watched this, and I don't get what you're trying to get at, man.
Well, okay, so you know the redhead from Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah.
Okay, so after she found out she was a lesbian witch,
Yeah.
and after everything that happened in Buffy's town that happened at that...
Sunnydale.
Yeah. After everything that happened at Sunnydale that happened, well, Willow went on to change her name because she didn't want to be associated with, like, being a witch. So she changed her name,
I thought it was because she didn't want to be associated with Joss Whedon.
moved to New York,
Okay.
fell in love with a giant dude, and he was the background character of a show called How I Met Your Mother.
What's that?
The show that Willow was on.
No, she was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, but that was before she moved to New York. They're canon together.
I don't think she moves to New York.
Yeah, at the very end.
That's not what the comics say.
Comics aren't canon.
The comics are canon.
You know what's the really insane part? The movie is also canon.
Yeah.
Like, because Buffy the Vampire Slayer
It's the reason she ends up in Sunnydale.
Yeah, starts with Buffy moving to Sunnydale because she got kicked out of her last school.
For burning down the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the movies, when she finds out she's a Slayer.
Anyways, this isn't a review of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That would be a much better podcast.
Would it?
I mean, depending on
it?
if we did it, it would be a much better podcast.
I don't know about that. Also, there's probably already like 50 of them.
100%. There's definitely dozens of Buffy the Vampire Slayer watch-along shows.
But anyways, this is How I Met Your Father.
Which is a similar but different variant of How I Met Your Mother.
I still don't know what that is.
I'm not going to let you keep playing this gag. You're going to have to, like, edit all of this out, or just admit you know what How I Met Your Mother is and you've seen a couple episodes.
Look, if you wanted to try to make things connected to other show canons, it would have been easier to do with Freaks and Geeks.
I've never seen Freaks and Geeks, which is upsetting because Finding Carter is a very, very good show, and the main actress from Finding Carter was originally in Freaks and Geeks before Finding Carter.
The guy who plays Marshall was in Freaks and Geeks.
Oh, was he?
Pretty sure.
Wow, I didn't know that. Freaks and Geeks is kind of like on the like rim of shows I know I should watch, but that I haven't.
Makes sense.
Like Zoe 101 and Degrassi.
You should have watched Zoe 101. Degrassi was alright, but not great.
And Victorious. I'm joking about Victorious. That was... If you don't know who Quentin Reviews is, go find his YouTube channel. Enjoy yourselves. So, How I Met Your Father opens in the year 2050.
Yep.
And a woman's in her apartment or house, and she walks into the living room and tells her home to call her son.
And then the house is like, lights are already on. And then she complains because you would think blah, 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 blah. They would have made it better by now. And then has her call her son.
You know what's funny? We had that exact moment earlier, though, where we're like, hey, Google, turn on the lights. And Google was like, I'm going to speak Spanish now.
Yeah. That was weird. I knew it was going to happen because you said the words, hey, Google.
Okay, Google, stop, please.
That's the sound of my soul dying.
Okay,
so.
Google, stop. So finally she called her son.
And her son answers, and she's just like, I'm going to tell you how I met your father. With no prompting.
Oh, she's like, how are you doing? He's like, I just finished studying for this test. She's like, cool, I'm glad you're not busy. I'm going to tell you about how I met your father. He's like, I already know how you met my dad. You're just drunk, aren't you? And she's like, why, yes, I am.
She's like, you haven't heard all the Jesus. And like, how much have you had to drink? And she's like, enough to mention the sexy bits.
Honestly, at that point, I would just hang up on my mother.
Yeah.
I'd be like, look, I don't need to know the sexy bits. I don't need to know more than that you guys met.
Yeah. That is the biggest problem with the first episode of these shows compared to, I guess, How I Met Your Mother, and the fact that in How I Met Your Mother, the kids asked how they met.
I believe so.
I think I don't know.
It's been forever since I actually saw the beginning of How I Met Your Mother, and like all sitcoms, it had a terrible ending.
No. I don't think so. I think he chose to tell them how they met their mother. The way he can explain why he's now going to fuck their aunt.
Oh yeah, that's the whole conceit of the show. But like we only learned that he's gonna fuck their aunt because of the end of the series.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, all sitcoms end terribly. It's a curse of sitcoms. None of them get to end good. The one that did manage to end on a good note where everybody was like, that was a good ending, then ruined it by making another season.
Yeah.
Even Community.
Everyone knows the last season of Golden Girls wasn't great. If they just stopped right before that last season, fantastic.
I was talking about Scrubs. I have no idea how Golden Girls ends.
I honestly don't remember. I've watched all of it.
All I know is Golden Girls just gets more and more insane the further you get in the series.
And it's
amazing.
Wonderful.
Rest in peace, Betty White. You were a legend. Jeez.
So, with her now starting her story, she starts it off by saying, it starts like any romance in 2022, with a Tinder date.
And she mentions she was running late as she dashed to her Uber. She gets in her Uber, and her Uber driver's named Jesse. And Jesse has his friend Sid along because Sid is going to propose to his fiancée tonight. His girlfriend tonight, not fiancée yet.
Yeah. So Sid's hitching a ride so he can go pick up his fiancée. And Jesse is doing Uber stuff because he's like, I'm in my fucking car, so why not?
Yeah. So
Sophie, the mother here, asks Sid for all the details. She's like, tell me everything. So, Sid explains that, he plans on asking out his girlfriend Hannah. She lives in LA at the moment where she's a surgeon. He's running a bar here.
LA? I thought it was Texas. My bad.
No. And he's running a bar here, but he intends to ask her to marry him.
I wonder how they see this relationship progressing in the future, because she seems to be like not just like a resident or something, but like an actual doctor at the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, she might be looking into moving out to New York for work because there are a lot of big hospitals in New York as well.
He's not just physically picking up his bar and moving it to LA.
Yeah, no. However, if he makes his bar successful enough, he could franchise it to LA.
That seems unlikely.
I realize.
Especially if he's in episode 2, we see his bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's been like, so I'm telling her we're going to see Beyonce tonight, but in actuality, she's going to come into the bar, and all of her friends are going to surprise her, and then I'm going to propose.
And his friend Jesse's just, like, shaking his head. And Sophie's like, I think she might be a little upset about not seeing Beyonce.
And then Jesse's like, that's what I've been saying this entire time.
And Sid's just like, look, a lifetime with me is better than Beyonce. And they're both just like,
I don't know you, Sid, but it's a hard call at this point.
Yeah. So then Jesse asks her what she's doing at. He looks up the name of her location. I don't remember what it was.
A bar.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, I'm going on a date probably with the guy I'm going to marry.
The man of my dreams. The last first date I'll ever go on. And
they're like, oh, and she's like, yeah, but I've never met him before. It's a Tinder date. And they're like, oh, you're crazy. That's what it is. Okay.
Oh, you're a crazy lady. I get it.
Yep. And then she goes on to describe...
As far as stereotypes go, crazy lady's offensive, and I'm sorry that I perpetuated it here, but that's kind of their reaction.
Yeah. And then from here, she goes on to explain that her previous first date was with a guy who showed up 20 minutes late because he was hooking up with someone that he had just been on a date with before that, and proceeded to entirely tell her about his sexual encounters before he showed up there, and seemed to think it was a good thing that he did that. Also, because I forgot to mention earlier, Sophie, young Sophie at least, is played by Hilary Duff, also known as Lizzie McGuire.
I forgot that I thought she stopped acting, but
No, she was in a show called Younger.
But Google says that she hasn't stopped acting.
Yeah, I know she did a show called Younger, which was all right for, like, the show type that it was.
I know nothing about the show. I vaguely remember its existence. I didn't know Hilary Duff was on it.
Yeah, she's, like, the main character's best friend.
Mm.
And then strained best friend, and then best friend again.
Mm.
It's strained best friend because she finds out that Liza, the main character, isn't the same age as her, because Liza's actually old and has a daughter her age, but she looks young and was having a hard time getting back into the work industry after a divorce.
Because society is ageist?
Yes. So she let people assume she was younger than she was and just rolled with it. And now people are upset.
To be fair, I would too.
Yeah. Like, the only thing that makes it uncomfortable is she dates a guy that's like 20 years younger than her. And doesn't tell him.
That is kind of...
Yeah, I'm like, that's the part that's not okay. But before the relationship gets serious, she does tell him.
Oh, that's good.
So, like,
I'm actually having more fun like learning about Younger than I did the first episode of this show.
Yeah, no, like Younger is not a bad show. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Anyways, she then continues to tell Jesse and Sid about
Ian, the guy she is going to meet, and hopefully marry.
And Jesse's a critic, and Sid's just being like the Greek choir here. She's like, so I met Ian. And he's like, oh my god, she met Ian. But she didn't even actually meet him. It was on Tinder.
Yeah, because she says when she left that relationship, she was just about to leave Tinder.
Uninstalled Tinder entirely. And then she matched with Ian. Oh my god, she matched with Ian.
And says like, it's just like, you've got Mel. And Jesse's response, which is probably the best joke so far of the episode, is, it sounds like you've got exceedingly high expectations for this first date.
Honestly, the show has some pretty decent, like, jokes.
Yeah.
Just, like, sitting in it, so.
And I think the best part is probably it has a variation of humor. Like, Jesse is more dry humor. Charlie later is very much more absurdist, fish out of water humor. And then we have snarky humor between Sophie and her best friend later.
Yeah, Ellen is just the best humor.
Yeah.
Because Ellen is physical humor.
Yes, Ellen is physical humor.
She's so good at it.
Yeah, so we have different types of humor, which is nice. And I actually don't know if we have, like, was that really a thing in How I Met Your Mother? It wasn't really, was it?
I have no idea. Look, I haven't watched an episode of How I Met Your Mother in, like...
a decade almost, probably.
When was I in college?
2012-ish?
2012, 2013.
Literally like a decade-ish, like I said.
Yeah. So like 8 or 9 years. It's been 8 or 9 years since I actually watched an episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Same. So like almost a decade.
Oof, dude, I'm old.
So she's talking about how her and Ian, though,
have become such pivotal parts of each other's lives already.
like just messaging and stuff. We see like a montage of them messaging. At one point, they ask them about their favorite celebrity crushes, and her response to his, which I don't remember what he said, her first celebrity crush was Buzz Lightyear, to which I just have to question, how can anyone have a crush on anything with the voice of Tim Allen?
It's a very good question. I'm trying to remember who his first crush was, but I can't remember for the life of me.
It was a reasonable answer, so it didn't stay in my head.
But then they like talk about what their jobs are, and she's a photographer, and like...
But she would prefer to be just a street photographer.
But she's a freelance photographer right now, and he is a marine biologist, and he's currently in Australia.
Yes.
But he's coming back, and that's why they're having the date tonight, is because he just got back in town. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like... I don't get the feeling, like, by the end of the episode, I don't get the feeling that he was lying about Australia.
Yeah, no.
But, like, at this point, I'm like, dude's not a marine biologist or from Australia.
Yeah. And when she first got in the cab, Jesse let her borrow a phone charger to charge her phone, which I need to point out now because it's vaguely consistent here because this is their end of her ride. So she takes a phone and gets out. Fun fact, we learn very quickly it's not her phone.
Also, should be noted, this is the most cringy moment of the show. When she is giving her phone to Jesse to charge, she's like, my phone is hungry. It's like, feed me, mother. It's super cringy, super bad humor.
Yeah. Though, as she's getting ready to leave, there's some decent humor here because she mentions that Jesse's just cynical. And, like, her and Sid are talking about more than she asks Jesse what his actual opinion is. And she's like, well, very much like how I feel like you're not going to give me a 5-star review after this. Here we go. And, like, explains, like, I think you're completely overselling this. It's not going to turn out anyway like you hoped. The chance of you having this perfect date is the same chance of you giving me a 5-star review after I've said this.
Yeah.
And she, like, glares at him and takes a phone and leaves. And I'm just like, yeah, it's the man his opinion. He doesn't know you. He has no obligations to, like, butter you up other than the fact that he wants 5 stars.
So, Ian and Sophie have a really good date. And in Sophie's description to her son, it's the type of date where you don't even look at your phone.
And he goes, like, what? And she's like, I know, right?
I mean, to be fair, like, I can't think... There are very few social situations where I have my phone and an hour, 90 minutes go by and I don't check it.
I do it all the fucking time.
So I understand what she's saying, but at the same time, like...
I don't, but that's because I'm weird for my generation, apparently.
I mean, it's just because you're weird. You don't have to, like...
Put clauses on it.
So Sophie then gets back to her apartment.
She mentions that it was fantastic, and then we turn back to the very end of the date.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And Ian's like, so...
This was a really good date, but... I'm going back to Australia, and she's like, when? And he's like, literally tomorrow. I got
a job offer.
I just got in town to put my stuff in storage and sub up my apartment, and then I'm heading back to Australia.
Yeah, so they decide that even though they've had this great back and forth with their phones and through the internet, and this one really great date, they don't think it's a good enough basis for long distance, so they decide to end it here.
Mm-hmm. And then Sophie gets back into her apartment, and we're introduced to Valentina, who Sophie introduces to her son in the storytelling as Aunt Valentina, implying that, like, they're not related, but like she's that close of a friend that like
Yeah.
he grew up with her as Aunt Valentina.
And Valentina just got back from Fashion Week in Petty.
You know, like Aunt Robin.
Yeah. And then Valentina's like, oh, so did you meet Ian? How'd it go? Was it fantastic? And Sophie's like, yeah. And so Valentina gushes and she's so happy for her. And then Sophie's like, but he's going back to Australia, so we're not going to date. And Valentina just like stops. She's like, what?
Yeah. And then we see a naked man.
An attractive naked man.
Coming out of the hallway behind them. And Sophie freaks out because she's like, it's a pervert, a naked pervert in our apartment. And Valentina's like, no, he's not. Well, yeah, he kind of is, but he's...
In a good way.
He's my boyfriend.
He lives with us now. I picked him up in Paris.
That's not quite how it goes. He gets introduced, but then like he gets sent back to the bedroom.
Yeah.
And she's like...
He doesn't get sent back. He willingly goes back to get close.
Yeah. And so Valentina and Sophie are talking, and Valentina's like, yeah, so Fashion Week was really good, and now Charlie lives with us, and...
Yeah, she just steamrolls through it, and then
how have you been?
Yeah, and Sophie's like, what? And Valentina's like, okay, so because he decided to hook up with me, a Latina makeup artist, and then come back to New York, his parents cut him off from his trust fund, so he lives with us now.
Yep. Then there's a joke about fruit play, and Hilary Duff spits out the apple she was eating because... It's implied that it was used in some form of sexual act.
Yeah, and then Valentina's like, motions to the bowl, which is filled with apples. She's like, you should probably get rid of the rest of those too.
Yep. Valentina then convinces Sophie that even though, like, it doesn't make sense, like, they're young enough that it doesn't have to make sense. You can just try to do something just because you can try to do something.
Yeah, she's not trying to say that in any way to affect Sophie's decision with Ian. She's using that as justification for why Charlie should live with him and why she hooked up with Charlie. And then Sophie's like, you're right. I'm going to go talk to Ian.
Yeah, she's like, I bet I can catch him. He said his flight's tonight. And pulls out her phone, and it's not hers. And she's like, oh, no.
It's Sid's phone.
So then she heads to Sid's bar, because that's where Sid and Jesse said they were going.
Mm-hmm.
And so she heads there, and Charlie's like, ooh, I want to go. I've always wanted to ride the subway.
Yes.
And then we immediately cut to him being like, oh, God, I hate the subway.
Yeah.
Does it always smell that bad?
And then they just make jokes about the New York subway being disgusting.
Mm-hmm. So we then get the required false surprise of a surprise party.
Yes.
Where Sophie, Charlie, and Valentina walk into this bar. Everybody jumps out of hiding and is like, surprise! Which, you know, every sitcom has to have at some point.
Yeah.
This show's just getting it done early.
And then Jesse's running around super anxious when he sees him. He's like, you guys aren't Sid? His phone says he's almost here. Just like, I have his phone. And
Jesse's like, oh no, I can't let this happen. I can't let his proposal fail too.
And Sophie's like, what? And he kind of glances over at the moment.
And he pulls Sophie back into the kitchen with him.
And Valentina and Charlie hide behind the bar.
Yep. And then we learn that Jesse is Mr. Proposal Phil because there's an online viral video of him asking his girlfriend at the time to marry him.
His girlfriend and bandmate.
To marry him, and she says no, makes it really awkward, and he trips over something.
And falls off the stage.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, because he's talking to Sophie about this, he's like, and now she's recording her first solo album in Europe, and I'm an internet joke.
I'm an Uber driver. That is an internet joke.
Yeah. And then we also see Charlie and Valentina crouched behind the bar, hiding.
And they get into an argument because
Charlie's still complaining about the subway.
Charlie's too prissy. That's what it boils down to.
And then they get startled by the woman behind them, who introduces herself as Ellen, Jesse's adopted sister.
Yeah, and she's his adopted sister because he is white and she is Asian.
Mm-hmm.
And he is super white.
And so she tells them that, she's here to reconnect with her brother and get out of the town she grew up in.
Which
because
was some small town in Illinois.
Mm-hmm, they had like 600 people. And the person she's getting divorced from, her ex-wife, is the only other lesbian in town, so it would have been awkward to stay.
And I don't remember who she says here. God, who does she say?
And now she's in New York to get away from there, connect with her brother, and meet Kate McKinnon.
No, and to ask out Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
And then Valentina was like, you know Kate McKinnon? And this is the best comedy moment in the episode because Ellen's face is just like, no. And then
lives up, brightens up.
It's just long enough where she's looking down, and then she's like,
"Do you know Kate McKinnon?"
And the delivery is so good. It's so good. So then
Sid and his fiance show up,
and the proposal goes well. And his fiance's like, "I can't believe I'm getting engaged and seeing Beyonce on the same night."
And Sid's just like, He shakes his head.
I can't believe I'm getting engaged.
Yeah. And then Sophie walks up and switches phone with Sid, and Sid's like, yeah, it's dead. That feels on brand for you.
And they've only known each other like 10 minutes. It's such a snide comment. But anyways, she starts trying to charge her phone because she's trying to get in contact with Ian.
We see Charlie and Valentina arguing again because he just got out of the bathroom and he's complaining about
bathroom stall. He's complaining about
urinals, stalls. How many people could fit in the bathroom at once? And at a point, she's like, "What do you don't use stalls?" And he's like, "No, I use stalls.
Where we keep the horses."
Yeah.
While this is all going on, Hannah, Sid's fiance, gets a call from the hospital she works at.
Her patient.
They have a lung for the transplant. She has to get back ASAP, which feels ridiculous. That's a 14-hour flight, right? Like, NY to LA is like a fucking long flight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they would just have another doctor do it.
Yeah.
That lung isn't necessarily going to be viable in 14 hours, unless it's like a living match.
I mean, yeah.
If it's not a living match, that's a long time to keep it on ice.
Yeah. So we also see Sophie and Jesse at the bar, and Jesse's behind the bar, so assumedly he helps sit out, like, because he is setting up drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just talking, and she's just like, "Look, man, I know shit's really fucked up for you right now, but, like, don't give up on love. Love's, like, the greatest thing." And he's just like, "Let me guess. Your parents were college sweethearts, never got divorced. They're still together." He's like, "But things are different for people. It's like and then he's like, "But things are different for people like us in the real world."
And she's like, "Yeah, I guess you got it kind of right."
Yeah, and then she turns on her phone.
And she has a picture from Ian. It's a picture of his boarding pass, and he's at JFK. And she's like, "I have to go right now. I have to stop him and tell him that we can be together. We can make this work." So,
and then that's when Hannah gets her phone call, and then she needs to go back to LA because Jesse's like, "I guess the universe wants me to take people to the airport."
Yeah, so Jesse's car is a sedan. It seats 5 people.
Mm-hmm. And he goes to leave, so he's taking Sophie with him.
Sophie?
Sid and Hannah, so that's 4 people total, including himself.
And then
Valentina drags Charlie because she wants to not be stuck in a social situation with just him.
That's 6 people. And then Jesse comes back in to get his sister, who he forgot about.
And she's just like, "You forgot about me, didn't you?" He's like, No.
That's 7 people fitting in that sedan. You're either stacking people or putting people in the trunk.
Yeah, and we don't see their drive. We just see them at the airport now. Without Sid and Hannah, assumably they went to a separate gate, which makes sense.
Sophie tracks down Ian because she has his gate information from his boarding pass picture. And she's like, "Look, even though it's insane, we can make it work." And he's like, "No, you don't understand how insane it is. It's a 14-hour time difference. I'm going to be on a boat most of the time and not have signal. Like,
it's crazy.
It's not even like it's a long-distance relationship. It's a relationship where, like, for 3 weeks at a time,
we have no interaction.
There's no communication." And she's like, "But we can make it work." And he's like,
no, maybe someday, but not right now. Like, it's fucked up, but, like, it's not gonna work." Should
mention at the bar when Sophie was complaining to Jesse, she's like, "Don't worry, you'll find your
Brooklyn Bridge girl.
Your Brooklyn Bridge girl." And he's like, "The fuck is a Brooklyn Bridge girl?" And she's like, "Oh, you see,
everything I made up."
Yeah, I grew up in New York, and I realized late in my teens that I had never crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, and I decided I would wait till I found the person I was in true love with, and we would cross it together and be an experience that would bond us." And he's like, "You're fucking stupid."
Yeah. And then after this airport scene, we go to the Brooklyn Bridge, and she's like, "Fuck it, I'll cross it by myself." But obviously, she also has her new friend group with her, which will be our obvious friend group throughout the season. So whoever she ends up with is from that friend group. So the story can do that classic thing of, "Well, I guess I did cross the Brooklyn Bridge with blah, 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 blah.
But I just didn't know it at the time."
Yeah.
Yeah, so they all go to the Brooklyn Bridge. It's Jesse, his sister Ellen, Sid, Sophie, Charlie, and Valentina. And then they're all like, kind of hungry. We should go get something to eat.
Well, Charlie and Valentina patch things up here a bit, because Charlie's just like, "This bridge is actually a lot clearer than I thought it would be, and it looks nice." And Valentina's just like, "You don't have to pretend." He's like, "Nah, I actually like the bridge." And then because he's not being prissy and complaining, she's like, "Man, you are super fucking attractive. And when you're not talking or complaining, I find you super fucking attractive," basically.
Basically, it's the relationship between, what's his name? The guy with, like, shortcut black hair and, like, the really sharp angular features, and Zoe Deschanel's best friend and New Girl. Schmidt, yeah. It's like her and Schmidt's relationship.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's 100%. If you just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they all decide to go get dinner, and they head back to Sid's place for drinks.
Though here, because Jesse mentions how basically crazy Sophie's being, he makes a mention about how she's lucky to have loving parents to Val, and Val's just like, "What are you talking about?"
She never even knew her dad.
And her mom's a fucking humongous party girl.
New boyfriends every week. And he's like, oh, well, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about then. And that's the end of this episode. There is one final joke where they're all entering Sid's apartment after they went out for dinner. And Sid's like, yeah, hosting people I don't know for drinks and engagement sex. They're both the same level of awesome.
Yeah, there's actually a secondary joke after that for people who watched the first season. Who watched How I Met Your Mother, not the first season.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they're just like, oh, super nice apartment. And he's just like, yeah, we got it from a still from the Wesleyan alumni page. The married couple that lived here.
It came with the swords.
Mm-hmm. It's Marshall and Lily's place from How I Met Your Mother. They're obviously just reusing sets because they have them and it saves money.
You mentioned How I Met Your Mother.
I mentioned it earlier too at the very beginning when you held me hostage for 15 fucking minutes before you could continue.
It was 5 minutes. Anyways, that's the end of the first episode. Justice, do you have thoughts on the first episode?
Yeah, my thoughts on the first episode? Honestly, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's still very unoriginal and uninspired like every other reboot or revival. At least it's more original than those ones where they have the same cast and everything's exactly the same or straight up continuation. It's just like same idea, but at least it has different characters.
I don't know if that's more original or less original.
I mean, at least they're writing different characters, whereas before most revivals that I've seen write the same characters, but now poorly. And then, some of the jokes landed pretty well. And as of right now, Charlie's fish out of water stuff is funny. I assume by episode 6, I'll hate it if I continued watching that far.
Yeah, I'm on a similar boat. Like, it's got funny bits. It's just, honestly, it doesn't feel like it feels like the type of show that you watch when you're in the dentist office and you're waiting to see the dentist. It doesn't feel like a show that anybody chooses to watch, but just a show that's on television.
Yeah.
Which is really disappointing for this show that's not on television because it's on Hulu. It's a Hulu original.
True.
Nobody's going to accidentally watch this. That's the biggest detriment to like online streaming TV shows.
Yeah.
Nobody accidentally watches shit and gets hooked on it. He's like, that happened when TV channels were a thing and TV was a thing.
Oh, yeah. You'd actually watch something and you'd be like, oh, fuck, I've watched 4 episodes of this show?
Oh, shit, this show's good. What the fuck happened?
Or it's, oh, fuck, this show is passable? I'll watch more, I guess. There's nothing else on in this time slot that I watch. It's normally the time I just zone out before other shit comes on.
This is normally when I take a half-hour poop break.
Mm-hmm. So, onward to episode 2.
Which is entitled FOMO. I don't know if we mentioned episode 1's
We didn't.
title.
Episode 1 is titled Pilot.
So, episode 2 is entitled FOMO, and it starts with Valentina and Sophie. Valentina snapping Sophie out of a depressive state to do morning aerobics.
No, it starts with the mother talking to her son.
No.
And he's like, but what happened about meeting up with dad? And she's like, oh, there was a lot of hookups before that happened. And then she says, and after that bridge, I backslid a bunch. And then it's Valentina snapping Sophie out of her depressive funk because
all Sophie wants to do is sit in her room, read texts from Ian, and listen to Drops of Jupiter.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, Drops of Jupiter.
It's a good Train song, but Train has better song.
I don't know. Drops of Jupiter is the Train song that has the fried chicken lyric.
Yeah. That's why there's better songs.
There is not. There's not better. Drops of Jupiter mentions fried chicken. That's top tier music.
So she drags Sophie out to do exercises, to Jane Fonda videos, and she's talking about how she herself plans to break up with Charlie because he's so clingy. He's always there. And Sophie's like, yeah, he lives with us now.
And he literally knows nobody else in New York. You think maybe that has anything to do with it?
Yeah. And Val's like, oh, I know, I could set him up on Grindr. And she's like, no. How about those guys we met?
No, Val's exact statement is, I could make him a Grindr account, and then when the guy gets here, lock them in a room together, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. And then Sophie's like, no, we could just, meet up with those guys that we met like last week.
Yeah, so Sophie ends up messaging Jesse and being like, hey.
Well, Val mentions that she wants to go to a club.
Oh, yeah,
called FOMO.
She got her and Sophie tickets, entrance.
No, she just plans on going.
No, she mentioned that she got them into. Like, I don't know what. Okay, so I've never lived in a city that large, so I have no idea what getting into a club days in advance means. Like, anytime I've been to a club, it's a literal thing at the doors. Like, it's not I'm on the list because I talked to somebody 2 days ago.
Look, it makes no sense with their interaction at the door anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll ignore what Valentina says. But apparently this club they're going to called FOMO. Obviously, it's inspired on the whole fear of missing out bullshit. It's why it's named what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It has a fuck ton of rooms.
1 million rooms.
Supposedly.
That's what Valentina says.
In the show, we hear/see about 9 different ones, because in this, she mentions that there's a tapas room, a topless room, a topless tapas room,
a foam room,
and a foam room.
and a neon room. That was the other room.
And a neon room, that's what it is.
Yeah, that was the other room she mentioned.
And then later when we actually go there, we see like 2 and hear a mention of 2 others.
Yep. So Sophie then sends him... Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
Then sends a message to Jesse and being like, hey, do you and your friends want to go out to FOMO with me and my friends tomorrow night? I don't get the exact timeline on this.
Yeah. And we see...
Saturday night. So this isn't Saturday. That's what it was.
And there's a transition, obviously, and we see Jesse, Sid, and Ellen painting Sid's bar, and they're having a decent discussion about, like...
And some new character who we don't know. I forgot his name.
We get his name very quickly here.
Okay.
I will get to it. And they're having a decent discussion about, like... Sid's like, yeah, I wanted to paint the upper part of the wall, to make it stand out because I want to be more modern but not lose that classic New York charm, which is why I went with the white dove for the upper.
Instead of the other white, which I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I don't either.
And Jesse's like, oh yes, because the colors are that noticeably different.
Yeah, and then when he gets the text, Sid starts ribbing him about, oh, Sophie really likes you, man. Like, yeah, you should definitely go. And because Jesse's like, I'm just going to tell her I hate clubs and we just hang out here.
Yeah, we just hang out here on Saturdays and I hate clubs. And Sid's like, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. And then Ellen's like, yeah, you're definitely not doing that. I want to go clubbing in New York. Let's go. I want an excuse to wear one piece and like have somebody bump into me and spill their drink on me and me be like, what? Why'd you do that? And him not hear me because I actually mumbled and the club music's too loud.
Yeah.
Then Jesse's like, that was way too specific and plausible of a fantasy. And she's like, yeah.
And then Sid's like, yeah, it'll be lit, except he uses lit, vaguely off context. And he's like, and Jesse's just like, what? And he's like, yeah, Jasper. He points over at the other guy in the scene.
He goes, yeah, that'd be tit. And Jasper's like, lit.
Yeah. And Jasper's just like this younger guy sitting behind the bar. And Jesse's like, oh, what? And he's like, yeah, I have Jasper teaching me new lingo. That way, I can stay up to date on stuff.
Yeah, he's a college student, and he works here, but he's giving me an update on the lingo and stuff. Right, Jasper? Nods.
Mm.
So then
he has like 3 lines here all together, and his other line is used when Ellen says something.
Yeah.
Honestly, Jasper's just amusing in the background. He gets a fun character interaction for Sid.
Yeah, so we then cut to
outside of FOMO.
And Sophie's crew meets up with Jesse's crew, and they're all hanging around in line waiting to get in. Sophie gets a text from Ian, which sends her kind of into a tailspin. Did I forget something?
We learn that Charlie is aware that this is a setup for him to become friends with Jesse and Sid.
Oh, yeah, that's
because
right.
Valentina tells him it's a classic American friends date.
Friend setup.
Yeah, friend setup. And he's overdressed and like worried about it, and Valentina's like,
oh, yeah, he goes to put in ruby...
really nice ruby cufflinks, and she's like, no, don't put those in, that's too much, they're not going to care about your cufflinks. And he's like, okay, fine. And then as she walks up, she's like, my cuffs are going to flap everywhere.
My cuffs will just flap about them.
Yeah. And so, like, that part's amusing, and it's kind of important that Charlie knows about the setup.
Yeah, okay. And then Sophie gets a message from Ian, and it sends her into a tailspin, and she explains to them, like, he sent her a picture of this guy that looks like Jason Momoa, and that was a running joke they had when they were talking but not dating because they were never actually dated. Yeah. They just went on a single date.
They send themselves Momoa lookalikes.
Yeah.
Which, if you remember stuff from How I Met Your Mother, they like lookalikes for some reason.
Yeah.
In that, they care more about lookalikes of the main cast, but now it's Jason Momoa lookalikes.
Yeah, there was Jason Mimosa, Jason something. I don't remember all the Jasons.
I don't know, but they missed the chance for Jason Barbosa, which is obviously a guy dressed like Captain Barbosa, but looks like Jason Momoa.
Or Jason Momosa, a mom that looks like Jason Mimosa.
Yeah, they missed some good ones for some kind of bad ones.
Yeah, but her friends convinced her to just ignore him, and she's like, okay, yeah. And the whole, like, subtext theme of this episode for her son is, like, being able to live in the moment and ignore your phone and, like, just enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. And so while they're doing that, we see Sid kind of, convincing Jesse, like, dude, seriously, like, Sophie's interested in you. Like, because when they first show up, she compliments his shirt.
Because they heard Valentina mention the word setup, and he's like,
yeah,
see, it's definitely, like, Yeah.
Because Val was trying to get the bouncer to set something up for them.
Yeah.
And then, so we're inside, and we see Sid having fun, and this is where we learn about one of the other rooms. So we have the 5 rooms we mentioned before.
And then the classic candy room. Classic candy jewelry room?
No. The candy nostalgia room.
Which he comes back from covered in, like, candy necklaces, bracelets,
ring pops.
Yeah.
And then we have the spa room here, so that's 2, so we're now at 7 rooms for this bar.
And then Jesse decides to make a move, and he asks Sophie if she wants to get a drink. And she's like, yeah, I'll meet you in the candle room. But then, on her way to the candle room, she gets distracted because she sees a mimosa lookalike. And she's like, that's where I got distracted. I'm probably missing something.
Yeah.
I know you're looking at me like you want to like just interject, so go ahead.
So they're all talking and having fun. It's nothing super important, but it is showing them getting closer as a group. Mm-hmm. Sophie's still hung up on her phone. Ellen decides to go dance because she has a bit where she's just like originally just sitting there and we see Sid back, and so Ellen's just sitting there. She's like, did that girl just make eye contact with me? I don't know. Looks back down. Everyone else is just continuing the conversation. Out of nowhere, she gets into she's like, I think she just made eye contact with me. I'm gonna go on the floor. I'm gonna go talk to her. And Charlie freaks out when Valentina makes a Three Musketeers reference.
Yeah.
Because Val's trying to jazz me up, and he's like, who would know what that is? That's pretentious or something.
Some pretentious literary reference that I do not understand.
I just sit around and drink my pabura.
My pabura.
My pabura.
And Sid's like,
do you mean PBR?
Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, and like you missed that part, which I just thought was great. My pabura. And so
thank you. I forgot about pabura.
Yeah, and then Soph sees the Jason lookalike after she talks to
yeah, and she gets kicked out.
So Sophie mentions like in a voiceover to her son, like, and that's when I realized, because they'd been talking about things being in front of them, like there was a nice guy who was interested right in front of me, and then they agreed to meet in the candle room for drinks, and then on her way to go get drinks, she sees a Jason Momoa lookalike.
Yeah, and she takes a picture of him. And when they were coming into the club, they were told that you can't take pictures in FOMO.
They gave them cameras to put over it.
Yeah, put little stickers over your camera, and it's just a rule to like emphasize that anybody that's there is missing out
because you have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, but she takes a picture of this mimosa, and
a security guard shows up and rhymes at her to get her to leave.
Yeah, he's like an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah,
it's actually great. Song. It's fantastic though. And then Jesse thinks he's been stood up.
So before she takes the picture, Val does run into her. Valentina runs into her, and she's like, "You're trying to take a picture of the Momoa look like." She's like, "Yeah," and Val's just like, "Cool. If you can do that, I'm allowed to break up with Charlie." And they're just like, "Yeah, we can both be kind of shitty people."
Yeah, that's right. So Charlie, Sid, and Jesse are all like talking, and Charlie they find out that it wasn't a setup for
Jesse and Sophie, but for Charlie to become friends with Sid and Jesse.
And then Charlie and Valentina get into an argument and break up because she can't communicate and just really wants space, but like...
Yeah, and just before that, Sid and Jesse leave. As they leave, Sid looks back. Ellen stands on the floor with an entirely different girl, so she went to see one girl. Don't know how that turned out. We see her briefly in the candle room with Jesse when she's run through, and she's just like, what about that one girl? And she's like, nah, struck out on that one, but now no bra Betty or something. And then she's dancing with an entirely different person. Sid's just like, your sister has game.
Yeah. So outside at the curb, Valentina and Sophie talk about how like Sophie just couldn't communicate because if she had been like, hey, I just need space, and Charlie was like, yeah, I can give you space, then she'd have to reciprocate his boundaries.
Yeah, that's what Valentina says.
And she's a terrible human being.
Also, like, so they have that conversation, but when Charlie and Valentina broke up, Charlie was just like, yeah, no, like, if this is how you deal with this, yeah, I don't think we should be in a relationship, because at the very beginning of the episode, she sent him to New Jersey to supposedly get the best bagels in New York for them. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, so she's breaking up with him. He's like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to be in a relationship with you if this is how you handle communication.
Yeah, if this is how you handle small problems, I don't want to be in this relationship. You're right. He leaves, and then Charlie, Sid, and Jesse are all hanging out with each other at Pemberton's.
Yeah, and Charlie's just like, thank you guys for giving me another shot. Like,
and he goes to put in his cufflinks, and Sid's like, oh, those are really nice cufflinks.
Those are really nice ruby cufflinks. And Charlie's like, thank you. Is that White Dove? And they have a conversation, like, just enjoying simple things that are apparently too much for normal guys.
I don't know if you wouldn't call those ruby cufflinks simple things.
I mean, simple conversation, not necessarily simple conversation about simple objects, but simple conversation.
Not Sophia. Why do I keep calling her Sophia? So Sophie and Valentina go to Pemberton's. Valentina and Charlie get back together. they were barely broken up.
Yeah, she brings him the actual best bagel.
And then Charlie vows to find his own place to live to give her some space.
Mm-hmm.
They then go have sex in a closet.
Yeah.
With the bagels.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie then apologizes to Jesse, and she's like, look, I'm a mess, you're a mess. We can't, like, be together, but we can try to be friends.
Mm-hmm. And Ellen shows up, and in this moment delivers a...
Yeah, Ellen's speech here is actually great. She's like, look, I don't know about you guys, but I just had the time of my life. Like, yeah, I struck out with, like, 6 different women, but...
you know what I learned?
And I got drunk too fast, and all this other stuff. But you know what? I learned that there's more than one gay fish in the sea.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people. And I can have a fun time and still have chances.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Sophie and Jesse have their conversation, which they're doing by a record player. And Jesse mentions, like, yeah, you're right. We're both a mess. Like, I'm a really huge fucking mess right now, you know? The girl I thought I was going to marry is in Europe recording a solo album. She took my cat when we broke up.
And I named my cat... Girl.
And Sophie's like, oh, so she's got the cat. He's like, no, my cat that I adopted 11 years ago, and I named Girl, that way it could be Jesse's girl.
So that I could have Jesse's girl. And then Sophie's like, oh, so now you really just want to have Jesse's girl.
And he's like, yeah.
So then they're all sitting around, and Jesse finally gets the jukebox to play the song he was trying, and it's Drops of Jupiter, and he's like, I know it's really cheesy, but this song...
It's my comfort song.
Which is what Sophie said at the beginning of the episode.
Yep.
The episode ends, and that's it.
Yep. So what are your thoughts on How I Met Your Father?
Honestly, I hate that I kind of like the show.
I get that.
It's got, like, good jokes. The second episode feels like it drags.
Yeah.
But it's got good, like, jokes, like the Jesse's girl joke. That's just top tier funny, actually.
Yeah. Also, Jasper appeared back in the end of this part, and he mentioned more slang terms, and then told Sid that he needed the weekend off. And also, he was going to leave early.
Yeah.
Except he didn't say he needed the things off. He's like, I'm not working this weekend. Also, I'm going to leave early.
No,
it's just like...
I'm not working next Saturday.
And also, I'm not working now. I'm going to go. And Sid just like claps him back. He's like, good for you, man. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah, so I honestly kind of hate that I like the show. And honestly, everybody's acting feels really stilted. Everybody just feels like they're delivering lines, not like they're actually being a character.
Honestly, the most personable, like, in-character actors for delivering their lines seem to be Sid, Ellen, and Charlie, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, Sid is like, and I guess Ellen, actually. Sid and Ellen are the only 2 people that are, like, likable people.
Yeah.
Everybody else sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Even Jesse, who, like...
Jesse's just a sad sack that exists, really, in shows where we're supposed to love them, but when we know a sad sack like that, it's like, bro, like, I get it, your life sucks, but, like, I can't baby you like the show tries to do. Like,
yeah.
That's not how you solve that shit.
So all the characters suck except, like, Sid and Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I stand. I hate that I kind of like the show. I'm not watching it anymore. Thank God it's only got 2 episodes out and I can't, like, accidentally go watch an episode 3. But I'm not watching any more of the show. I don't want to watch more of the show. Okay, so I have widely held that there's only 2 great sitcoms, Scrubs and Community. And if a sitcom isn't going to be, like, 90% of Community or Scrubs, I don't want it. I just don't.
Honestly, I'm one of those people that put Golden Girls in there with those. I loved the show.
Golden Girls is good, but it's not Community good or Scrubs good. Anyways, what's your opinion on episode 2 and the series as a whole?
Yeah, no, I like some of the setting and character traits and some of the bits that they have. But I also really dislike other parts of it. Like, you know, everyone that's not Sid or Ellen or Jasper, I guess.
Fair.
Like, Charlie is fine, but like I said before, I think his gimmick's going to get tiring by episode 6.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. So...
Also, much like How I Met Your Mother, I hate every time we cut to the present.
Yeah, I hate...
Also, it feels like it did it more in these 2 episodes than most episodes of How I Met Your Mother.
I don't remember, but what I can
I feel
say...
like there were multiple episodes of How I Met Your Mother where they just didn't confront that shit at all.
What I can say is I hate this frame story. Because if my mother, or hell, if my older sister, or hell, if my brother who was sitting here in the room...
What's up?
Called me and was like, hey, I want to tell you the story about how I fucked all these people until I eventually fucked the person that would be...
The person I married.
Like, I'd be like, cool, how drunk are you right now?
Not at all.
I'm hanging up. Good night.
Yeah, like, the only way I want the show to end that reasonably makes sense in my head is the mother looks up and realizes her son hung up on her a long time ago.
It doesn't work because he's actively engaging and having conversation with her.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways.
I like to imagine he's just phoned back in occasionally, and that after this point where he's like, because in the first episode she kind of just summed up, he's like, he made the bad decision, be like, wait, what's that have to do with Dad? And then she just goes on for the rest of the series, and occasionally we flash back to her and she says something, and he's like, yeah, okay, sure,
Anyways.
Oh, that sounds bad.
If you want to be in our 2022 flashback when we're in 2050 and telling our children how we met the loves of our life, you can contact us at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
You can tweet us at copilotsreview on Twitter.
Or you can find either of those links as well as a link to our Discord at copilotsreview.simplecast.com. That website also has the link to our YouTube channel, which has archived older episodes from last year and will eventually have this episode as well as others.
Supposedly.
Anyways, thanks for flying with us.
Please fly again soon.